It's also always with sincere gratitude that the United Nations family joins the Public Service Commission as well as the Department of Public Service and Administration to commemorate what really is an important day, not only for South Africa, but for the world. So thank you as well to the acting DG for this collaboration. Let me also acknowledge all the other partners that have helped to make this possible, including SIU, the Ethics Institute, Whistleblower House, and all the other representatives from government, civil society, academia, and the private sector. And it gives me great pleasure as the United Nations resident coordinator and representative of the Secretary General here in South Africa, and on behalf of the United Nations country team in South Africa, to always have this opportunity to join you all in commemorating what really is a truly special day. And as we look at the theme of this year, we are reminded why it is important to constantly fight against something that is not only a scourge, but some has referred to as a silent pandemic. And as you heard from the program director, at the start of my career, I worked for Transparency International. So my conviction about the importance of integrity and good governance is really what has guided, from a deeply personal perspective, the efforts that we have been seeking to undertake through various roles, including currently in this position at the United Nations. And I think this conviction is based on the fact that improved governance and accountability must be and are the bedrock of sustainable development and social justice. And as we've heard, corruption is not only a global challenge that undermines democracy and erodes trust in institutions, it also impedes sustainable development since it directly impacts the livelihoods of people, including those who are most vulnerable. And in addition to what we've heard about what Ban Ki-moon said about corruption being a cancer, the current UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has stated also that corruption not only robs resources, it robs people of hope. Corruption undermines development. Corruption subverts social cohesion and exacerbates inequalities. And certainly, corruption fuels distrust in institutions and leaders. And here in South Africa, we all know too well how corruption threatens service delivery, weakens governance, and deepens socioeconomic divides. Yet, the Secretary General of the UN reminds us that the fight against corruption must be everyone's fight, and it's not only left to the activist or the Public Service Commission and other specialized units. And we've seen time and time again that when governance is strong and accountability is real, hope flourishes and communities certainly thrive because they can effectively contribute to the transformation of a country. And I say this as well because it is not just a policy imperative, it is a moral one, and it is within our reach if we act together. In fact, we have no choice but to act on corruption collectively. And this year's commemoration comes shortly after South Africa historically hosted the G20 meetings. And under South Africa's G20 presidency, the Anti-Corruption Working Group reaffirmed its commitment to building a fair, transparent, and global system. And whilst a ministerial declaration was not reached, it is heartening that members reaffirmed their dedication to the United Nations Convention Against Corruption and pledged to lead by example in the fight against corruption. And today we must recognize our fight against corruption as being inseparable from the commitment to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals and National Development Aspirations as well. And Goal 16 of the SDGs calls on us to build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. And accelerated action on the SDGs cannot be a distant ambition. It is an urgent necessity. And rights are created and upheld by ethical and accountable institutions. And the decisions that are made by these institutions and the services that are rendered, as well as the jobs they can help create, as well as the management of natural resources or the management of even conflicts, all of this contributes to ensuring that we have social cohesion and a society that is truly thriving. And a truism from our end also is the fact that when women are empowered and protected, and when impunity is tackled. I say this because we're in the midst of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And when all these efforts are taken, then we can ensure that certainly women are effectively also playing their part with institutions that are delivering. Which brings me then to the theme of this year's global commemoration, which is about uniting with youth against corruption and shaping tomorrow's integrity. With 1.9 billion people, young people globally, their energy, innovation, and commitment are vital to building a culture of integrity. And young leaders are not just victims of corruption, they are powerful agents of change and must be at the forefront of efforts of utilizing innovation and technology to expose and combat wrongdoing. The United Nations Office for Drug and Crime Executive Director, who just left, Gather Wali, once said, "The world's young people have the most at stake and the conviction to find transformative solutions to corruption and hold leaders accountable. But youth cannot be left behind." And that's why the local theme in South Africa around empowering communities together for integrity and accountability reminds us that communities must be empowered to resist corruption, hold leaders accountable, and foster ethical governance. And citizens' participation is central. Citizens are drivers of accountability, reform, and certainly change. And unless citizens stand up against corruption, society cannot be rid of this scourge or disease. And at the United Nations, we are working across the whole system in seeking to find ways to collectively advance anti-corruption interventions. And certainly, this is something that informs all of our work, as the chief executive boards of United Nations leaders has called for a system-wide approach, integrating anti-corruption into all aspects of UN programming, from human rights and gender equality to economic development and climate action. And the UN Global Compact, the part of the UN that works with the private sector, is also mobilizing the private sector to uphold the highest standards of integrity, transparency, and responsible business conduct. Businesses certainly have a critical role to play in preventing corruption and not encouraging it, in promoting ethical practices and ensuring fair competition. And this is something that really must be underlined, including in the South African context, as we look at advancing digital innovation, championing inclusion, and also promoting ethical leadership and service delivery, which we've heard is a major challenge for the country. And this is something that the UN in its country analysis, as well as in our new cooperation framework, seeks to focus on. It's about reducing waste and leakage. It's about tackling illicit financial flows. It is about reinforcing integrity and ethics. And above all, ensuring that services that are meant to be delivered are effectively delivered for the benefit of all. And this is something that really was shaped in consultation with the public protector, with the Public Service Commission and other stakeholders across the country, as we sought over the last year to craft a cooperation framework that will guide our work for the next 5 years in South Africa. So we really appreciate the collaboration with all the institutions, the state entities, as well as civil society. And as I bring my remarks and reflections to closure, let me offer 6 steps that I believe are necessary for South Africa's pathway forward. We've heard this already, but let me restate this. It is really about strengthening local governance and service delivery, because this is important in ensuring that oversight and transparency guides interventions in this regard. It is about empowering and protecting whistleblowers and activists. And it's also about building capacity and independence of oversight bodies. It is about fostering a culture of ethics and integrity. And it is about harnessing digital innovation and youth leadership. Above all, we need to ensure that we reinvest recovered assets transparently with clear reporting so that communities and people can benefit. And all of this cannot be done in isolation about those who are most vulnerable and left behind, because these groups bear the brunt of the consequences of corruption and need to benefit the most from the fight against corruption. So gender-sensitive and youth-focused interventions really need to be important. So I thank you all for this opportunity to join you. And as the UN, you can continue to count on us to accompany this journey, because together, as the Secretary General has said, we can build resilient institutions, empower citizens, and build a future of justice and equality. I thank you.